Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take Two, the show where we talk about films, TV, and everything in between. I'm your host, Michael D. Smith. Thank you so much for listening today. Before we get started, two quick disclaimers. First, everything that is said on this show is just our opinions of said cinema, and it should be treated as such. Secondly, if you're worried about spoilers, we go very in-depth into both of our films, so this is your spoiler warning. All right, now let's introduce our guest. Our guest is Thomas Hughes. Tom is a freshman at Montclair State University majoring in filmmaking, and he is I would argue, avid moviegoer.
I would agree with you on that one. I love going to the movies. I love watching movies. I love talking about movies. And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. All right, so let's start with our first film. Our first film is Good Time. Some quick facts about it. It was directed by Benny and Joshua Safdie. It was written by Joshua Safdie and Ronald Bronstein. It came out on August 25th in 2017. I actually couldn't find the budget online, if you believe that. But it made $1.9 million in the box office. It stars Robert Pattinson, Benny Safdie, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and it got a 91% by critics and 80% by fans on Rotten Tomatoes. So, Tom, what did you think about the film?
Okay, Good Time is, it's, for me personally, I love the film. I don't know about you, but I think it's really great. I think just general stuff. Cinematography, I think, is fantastic. It's really, it's handheld. I think for the majority of the film, maybe save for the opening scene. I think the cinematography is mostly handheld, and that gives it a nice gritty feel. It's almost documentary style, and it's shot mostly in close-ups, and which is really cool because that helps a lot with the act. With a lot of facial expressions are in this film that are very important to these characters. And so that really helps emphasize the emotion, for sure. The performances, I think, are off the charts. Robert Pattinson gives probably his career best performance. Benny Safdie in the first opening scene alone, I think, gives an incredible performance. I think the screenplay is brilliantly written. The plot is absolutely insane. What they do with the main character, Connie, I think his name is. He does some insane things that I'll talk more about that when we get more specifics into the specifics. But he does some insane things throughout the film in order to not get caught because he's a dude on the run, and his whole motivation is just to help his brother out, his developmentally disabled brother.
Yeah.
And it's a noble cause, but the dude is completely whacked out of his mind, you know what I mean? He's really a criminal, and but yeah, anyway, the film throughout, you just kind of it goes and it really doesn't stop. It's beautifully paced. It's really fast, and it just works on almost every level, from an emotional standpoint, from a story standpoint, from a character standpoint. Do you want me to say more specific stuff? Because I can.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go into. I'll
for it.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this movie. Actually, you recommended this movie to me.
Yeah. Because
you said you watched it with a couple of our friends, and you said, "Oh, have you seen this? You got to watch it." And I was like, "No, I've never even heard of it." But I gotta say, I really enjoyed the movie. It was distributed and made by A24.
That's right.
Which whoever's listening to this doesn't know, A24 is primarily a very independent studio.
Very low budget.
Very low budget. I mean,
auteur-driven.
I mean,
cinema.
it made $1.9 million, which is not a lot of money.
No.
And I would bet the budget is probably like $500,000.
I bet most of the budget went to hiring Robert Pattinson.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think I totally agree with what you said about the performances. I think I've never seen Robert Pattinson in a role such as this, and I think he really nailed it.
Absolutely.
And I also felt like, which is something that they could have easily done wrong, I think they very well handled the autism in the movie with the developmental disability. That's something that could have been taken a very different way, and I think they were respectful of it and not informative. It wasn't a documentary on the developmental. Why can't we say it?
I know, it's tough. It's a tongue twister.
Developmental disability.
There you go.
They really, I think, did a good job handling that and making it a part of the story. And I also love the opening and closing of the film.
Yeah.
Because the way I looked at it was Benny Safdie, right? He played Nick.
Right.
And then Connie was played by Robert Pattinson, and they're brothers. And in the beginning scene, Benny is in I guess some type of therapy with a therapist, and it's like you said, very all close-ups. Very, I think this was actually one of the few stationary scenes. I think
which is strange because like when you think about it, like you know like when it's a camera stable, that means there's like ease, but like it's kind of interesting because like when every time Robert Pattinson is on screen, it's all shaky cam, it's all handheld. But every time Benny's on screen, like it's completely different. Like it stays still,
which is kind of I like. I mean, it's not ironic. I don't think that's the right word. Because
like
it's kind of funny when you look at it because he, society pushes Nick's character as an unstable, shaky type of person, and Robert Pattinson is more of a normal, average person.
Exactly.
But when you switch it and you make it handheld on the crazy guy, or the normal guy, and then the more stationary stuff on the developmental disabled kid, it's really, really quite something. And the way I looked at it too was in the opening and the beginning, but that's the same thing. The opening and the closing.
Right.
That's what I meant.
There you go.
Dude, we are just like,
it's okay.
It's late. I'm not here right now. The opening and the closing, the way I looked at it was those were the two scenes where Nick was actually getting the help he needed, and everything in between that was Connie's character intervening and messing everything up for Nick because it's being mentally disabled is something very serious and you have to take it seriously. And I think Connie's in the mindset. I think towards the beginning of the film there was a line where Nick was like, or Connie was like, "Why? What are you doing? Like, why are you going to that? That's not going to help you. Like, I'm going to help you."
Yeah.
And it's a very selfish mindset, in my opinion. I think it's you try and hit. Robert Pattinson's character likes to think that he can fix all of Nick's problems just because they're brothers, and it's somewhat kind of sad when you think about it because Nick is being deprived of what he needs and what he I would bet wants, and it's really just well done. Like I just think the way there are very few films where the beginning and the closing are callbacks, and it's very rare that a beginning and closing callback scenes are actually like a bow on the top. Like it's just very well done. Like when the ending was going and then the credits started rolling, I was like, oh yeah, what a good ending. Like it really hit me, and I was like, wow. Like
I was actually going to ask you about the ending because at first I didn't really know how to feel about it. At first I was like, I don't know how satisfying that is. However, but I saw this film 2 or 3 times, I think. But the second time I saw it, I was like, you know what? That is actually really satisfying because, we don't see Benny Safdie's character throughout the entirety of the film, but like that's his arc. His arc is completed at the end. Like he gets what he deserves, and it's actually, I mean, it's sad, but it's actually like really uplifting in a way to know that he will be taken care of.
Right.
I think that's the real brilliance of this film. Also, like behind the scenes knowledge, they were going to hire a developmentally disabled actor, but then they were like, I don't think we should put that kind of person through this kind of role and this kind of intensity. So they just Benny Safdie was like, I'll do it. And I think he killed it.
I honestly
insane.
I honestly thought it was real.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how they handled that, and that's one of those other film, like, as you know, like any film where it's dealing with somebody who is actually disabled. There's a huge debate right now in film, and not just now, but has been going on. Where do you actually hire people that are in that category, or do you have an actor act it out? And it's kind of tough because I can see both sides of it. It's if you want to look at the actor's point of view, they're maybe they're just a little bit more trained, and maybe they're more well known, so they can bring a little bit more awareness to it. But then you look at the other side and you think, that's the real thing. Like that's real, and
the representation is important, no matter whether it be race, whether it be like gender, anything like that. Yeah. So.
And I think also, like, this is my next point too.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you said you thought he did a great job, but also how if they brought somebody actually in who was mentally disabled, that it could go very wrong.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the robbery scene.
Yes.
Because it's, in my opinion, one of the best scenes in the film. It's one of the best robbery scenes in film that I've seen. And I thought it was just so very well done, and it was so intense. Like the entire movie is just, if I could put like a subtitle underneath Good Time, I would put like tension.
Yeah.
Because
nonstop.
Nonstop. Yeah. Every scene is so tense and so visceral. And the I thought one thing interesting, and I don't know if you've seen this before, the masks that they used.
Yeah.
Have you seen that before in film or like anything?
The like very realistic masks.
Very realistic.
Crazy.
Like I've never seen that before. So
No.
if you haven't seen the movie, they go in and they're dressed like construction workers,
Yeah.
and excuse me, and they are wearing these masks. Typically, you'd expect, they wear burglar masks or ski masks, but they were wearing these kind of latex African American masks and they put a hat and a hood and glasses on, and like if you were just walking right past them, I don't think you would notice.
Not at all.
It was so I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was creepy.
It was really unsettling.
But I also loved the way they handled the robbery, where they put the note underneath the thing and said, "We have guns.
Yeah.
We don't want to use them, but give us the money."
Right.
Versus just coming in there, guns blazing, and
Exactly.
just
Yeah,
I thought it was
really subtle.
It was very very well done.
Yeah, absolutely. That scene is incredible. And the chase that happens right afterwards is just like indescribably good. And the way Nick he gets caught, that's just like upsetting. And the scene where they're in the bathroom dyeing their hair or whatever, or his hair gets like dyed.
Right.
No, not that.
The
Different scene where the thing comes off.
right,
Yeah.
that's like a paint trap or
There you
something
go.
where it
Yes.
shoots red paint in your
That
eyes.
scene, and like when he's like freaking out, and that scene's like crazy because again you see Connie's like manipulation. The guy's like the employee of the Burger King, wherever they were at, was knocking on the doors like, get out of there. He's like, this is my brother, like he needs help right now. I need to help him.
He is manipulative. Not just
incredibly.
towards Nick, but towards everybody. He
Yeah.
almost uses it like he loves his brother. He respects his brother, and he treats him with equality. But he uses it like, I mean, okay, listen. Whether you agree with it or not, it's kind of smart when you're robbing a bank. You got to use that to your advantage, and he does. But it's just so bad.
He's a terrible person, but he's incredibly smart, which is really like I haven't seen a character in that in film, and I can't tell you how long or ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's one of the things I really appreciate about the script. I think the script is rock solid.
I also thought one of the other basically any scene in the film was thrilling and intense.
Yeah.
But the one scene that I also thought was a different type of tension, I think. It wasn't necessarily tension that they were going to get caught, but more tension that something was going to happen to Nick, was when Robert Patterson's character went to the hospital to try and get Nick.
Yeah.
And, I mean, long term, he ends up taking the wrong guy.
Right.
But
awesome twist, by the way.
right, yeah,
So
I totally
cool.
did not get
Yeah.
would not have called that, but just him walking through the hallways, and that's another thing I love about independent films. So A24 is, as we said, a very independent studio.
Yep.
But they also, I would argue, do slightly more experimental type stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm personally not a huge fan of experimental. I prefer story, and I prefer narrative, and I prefer just on the page, this is what it is.
Yeah.
But I really do love independent films.
Yeah.
And what they give. Have you seen Fruitvale Station?
I haven't seen Fruitvale Station.
So that's a film that is by, I want to say, Ryan Coogler.
That's yeah.
Yeah,
that's
and
correct,
it has Michael B. Jordan and some named actors, but it's very independent.
Right.
And we've learned obviously in one of our previous classes about what makes an independent film independent and
Right.
technically, but for one thing that really stuck out to me was when they went in the hospital, how bright and like almost jarring those LED lights were in the hallways and
Totally.
everything, and
Yeah.
it makes you feel like you're there, and you're like,
Right.
wow, I can picture him sweating. I can picture probably what he smells like
Yeah.
just
The
walking
movie
through the
is
hallway.
just dirty as a whole.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's just grimy and kind of filthy, but like that's a part of the aesthetic, and it's kind of awesome. And
Yeah.
they stick with that throughout, and that's what helps with the grittiness throughout the whole thing. It makes it grounded, makes it really realistic, and like this could happen in real life. And that's another thing I really appreciated about it. That
Right.
It just has this aesthetic that is really like, it's like gross almost, but
Yeah.
like it's kind of beautiful at the same time, just because it's handled like so perfectly that I don't know, just works on so many different levels.
Yeah, and so there was the scene towards probably right before the third act, which is when they go into the amusement park or
Yeah.
mini golf,
Whatever
it
it's
was.
like a fun house,
Right,
something
right.
like that.
And they go in there at night, and I don't know the name of the actor. He was in Captain Phillips.
I know exactly.
I don't want to butcher his name because I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a great actor.
He was the pirate.
He was the right, and he was
Kevin
also the security guard
Right.
in this film.
Yeah.
And I mean, that poor guy, like he gets completely,
he gets screwed pretty bad.
Yeah, he gets walloped.
Yeah.
And but that scene was also really great as well because I think from a technical standpoint, this film uses light in very interesting ways.
Yeah.
And you could argue that, like we said with the hospital scene, how it's all very motivated by practical lights, actual lights in the ceiling or lamps or whatever. But I think, that scene in particular, it's very, very dark. Like you only see the lights coming off of the animatronics or the machines or whatever they are. But it just adds a whole nother level of realism. Like I literally felt like that was me trespassing somewhere and I was like, oh, the cops. Like I was like,
Exactly.
like it was just really like a weird sensation I've never had watching any film before. And I thought that was very, very well done. And also, can we talk about which is a sad note, but can we talk about when the guy was trying to escape the cops and then he fell off the roof or the building, the side of the building?
Yeah, he
that was crazy.
That was insane. I don't know.
Like
I don't know
the
how
amount
they
of
did
times I've seen in student films or even smaller independent films on YouTube or whatever. Whenever they try and do somebody falling off a building, it always looks so bad.
Yeah, it looks like a movie. That doesn't look. That looks like someone took like iPhone footage, like better quality iPhone footage, and just shot a guy jumping off a building.
Yeah.
I was like, how did they do that? Especially with definitely like the
low budget,
micro budget.
I'd have to think that what they did was they definitely didn't have the money probably to do any visual effects.
No.
They probably didn't have the money to do any crazy stunts, like actually have him fall but onto a giant mat. We didn't see the mat. They probably couldn't afford that. So what they probably did was make a body like a dummy.
Yeah.
And they probably put a lot of weights in it, like weighted sandbags, so that it moved like a body instead of just like flying around. And because they shot it from the back of him and you can't see his face, if they put a wig on and a mask on, it might have worked, but I still feel like you'd notice.
Know. Yeah.
Like
because that's like seamless. Whatever they did, it was so good. I mean, the Safdie brothers they directed the heck out of this movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
And did you so the movie came out in 2017. So you saw this only recently, or did you see this when it came out?
I saw it I think the year it came out, or maybe a couple months after it came out.
Okay.
And then I saw it again maybe a couple months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask, because it's been probably 4 months since I watched it, but so Robert Pattinson's character ends up getting arrested.
Right.
And
at the end.
And he goes away, and then that's the last we see of him, correct?
That's the last we see of him.
So so I knew I remembered it. So what was funny about that was when you think about it, Connie was always intervening and getting in the way of Nick's needed lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ironic for his character because he's been trying so hard and he was so, headstrong trying to help his brother out, but when in actuality he was actually doing the opposite. That it's kind of funny how he kind of got the medicine he deserved, just like Nick did at the end,
Yeah.
Like he went to jail and that's what he deserves, but it's kind of funny how they both get their own different forms of confinement, but at the same time,
his goal is to help his brother, and the only way he could do that is by putting himself away. You know what I mean? Like, it's to stay away from his brother.
Right.
And he doesn't realize that until he's sitting in the back of the cop car, and like the camera's slowly pushing in on him. That's his realization that like he's screwed up. Maybe he doesn't know that like him going away is the best for his brother, but like that's the realization probably for the audience,
right?
More so than anybody else, that this is the best thing that can probably happen for his brother. And his brother in the end obviously recognizes that and starts going to we think he will probably start going to classes in the future,
right?
All that kind of stuff. So
and I didn't actually write this down, but I just remembered. I don't remember specifically how the music went, but I think
the score is fantastic.
The score is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think you know because our friend Cole, who was on the first episode, he is not necessarily a fan of, like, he doesn't hate music. It's just he doesn't usually notice it. But
right.
For me, I'm a huge, because I grew up in a musical family, and I was in band, I was in chorus, and I love music. And the way films use music to their advantage There was one film that I reviewed on the show that I think like beautifully used music to push the film forward from just what it was. It was Django Unchained.
Oh yeah.
You know, like there are certain films, and it doesn't happen all the time. A lot of films, like the music's there, and you're like, oh, there's music. But in this film, I remember the score was so well done.
Yeah.
And it was mainly electronic, right?
It was pretty much all electronic. Probably definitely a lot of keyboards.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But I think that worked. Like I think
it
that
was so good.
It added to the griminess of it and to the rawness and independent aspect of it. And you know, I've only recently started working with composers because it's very difficult to do that at this age, you know, but I like to challenge myself, and I don't like to get copyright notices on YouTube.
Right. That's probably reason number one why why you want to get a composer.
Dude, the amount of times like they're like, oh, I can't use a Beatles song. Like,
right.
But in this film too, like I just thought the music was it made the scenes flow even more than they already were.
Yeah.
And it really, like, if the scenes were the mechanical parts of a car engine, this was like the lubricant, like the oil that just moved it and just kept it going. And it just like, dude, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
Absolutely. All around, just like every single aspect of the film, it just hits the nail on the head every single time, you know? And, you know, when you look back, when you rewatch the film, it just gets better and better.
Right.
You know, you recognize the small things, whether it be like something in the story or the more technical aspects. The second watch, I recognized more of the technical aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So like I noticed the score even more and realized how brilliant it was. And even the story aspects, like the guy, I mentioned this before, but like he does everything, like not also to help his brother, but also not get caught.
Mm-hmm.
Like that scene where with the 16-year-old girl, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yes. That was weird.
That was weird, but like. He's a desperate guy, and that scene just shows that perfectly. A little disturbing, but it just shows that aspect of him perfectly. So
yeah,
it's crazy, but it's a crazy film though.
It really is. I think honestly, like, what do you think of the title? For me, the title is kind of like it's supposed to mean the opposite.
Yeah.
Like it's not a good time. It's a very negative film.
No,
There's nothing happy
really
about the
bad
film.
Time.
But I think that's the point, because I think, and plus, good time sounds better than bad time.
Right.
So I think that's what I interpreted from the title.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got anything different.
I mean, I feel like for me, the title was just the title.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked into it that much. I'm not really totally sure, to be honest with you. But it's a good title.
Yeah.
I think it works for the film, whether it has to do with it or not. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's Good Time, a film we definitely recommend you watch. It is on.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Yes.
Yep.
You can watch it there if you have
Definitely. Please do.
Yes. All right. So now on to our next film, which is definitely going to be a fan favorite.
For
is
sure.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is a film that came out on December 14th in 2018. It was directed by 3 people, if you believe that.
Yeah.
It was directed by Bob. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for if Bob's watching this. Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rathman. Okay, got it. It was written by Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman. It had a $90 million budget and made $375.3 million in the box office.
Nice.
It won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. It was actually the first animated feature to beat a Pixar film.
Wow.
Because in the past, I want to say like 12 or so years, since or however long the award's been going on, anytime a Pixar movie's been nominated, they won. But this time they beat that, which is cool.
Yeah.
It got a 97% by critics on Rotten Tomatoes and 94% by fans.
Wow.
So I loved this film. Like,
yeah.
I could talk about this film for hours, but I'm going to try and control myself. So first off, the story is such a great way to tell a superhero story, because you could look at it from the standpoint of, oh, it's just a repeat, but that's kind of the point. Like it's they even I love how Sony pokes fun at their past films and their past mistakes with the Spider-Man films, like the Sam Raimi trilogy as well as the Amazing Spider-Man duo.
Whatever.
They didn't make a trilogy. So I like how they poke fun at that, and they have a little bit of humility, but they also know it's going to sell.
Yeah.
And they have the whole I think they do it like 5 or 6 times in the film where they say like, okay, let's just do this rundown one more time. I'm Peter Parker. I'm the only Spider-Man. I did blah blah blah, and then they do it like multiple times. And it's the running gag, and I love that. But I also love the animation style in this film.
Animation's gorgeous.
It's probably the best animation I've ever seen, honestly.
It's up there, honestly.
Because the way they mixed hand drawn look with a straight up comic book look, with also like glitchy digital look, it's just so well. Honestly,
it's something I've never seen before.
Yes,
which is hard to say with animated films nowadays, because usually it's the same kind of thing. It's either computer animation or stop motion. You rarely get 2D nowadays. To get a hybrid of kind of all of those things, like wow, that's rare, especially for for something so mainstream as Spider-Man.
Yeah,
you get this really like artistic, like almost this artistic interpretation of the character that celebrates the character and also like is its own kind of thing.
Yeah,
which you never see in the superhero genre, and you never really see in like film in general.
Right.
Which is why it's so good. Like it speaks to everybody.
Yeah, and I love, I thought there are very few films, animated films anyway, that I've seen where the voice acting just hits home for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I never watch an animated film and say like, oh, that didn't make any sense with that voice actor. But this film for me, it just like I believed that the voices of these characters were the characters.
Yeah.
I could just picture each person to each. I also love. Do you know John Mulaney?
Yeah, love John Mulaney.
I love
his stand-up is hilarious.
He's probably my favorite comedian, and I also love how he was in this film. Like, he played the perfect character.
They used him brilliantly.
Yeah, and I literally wrote down before I keep going. I wrote "let him talk" because I know like I could keep going, but I want to hear your opinion.
On the film overall, like you said, animation is incredible. The script is incredibly smart. The dialogue is really witty, and the characters are done so well. In the first act, they set up relationships just beautifully, and I really like the fake out where they had Chris Pine playing Spider-Man right at the beginning, and he says, "Let's do this one more time." That's brilliant because like it's just a quick origin story to lead up where he is right now. Let's see, what else do I have written down here? Nick Cage is my favorite part of this entire film.
He was so good.
Yeah.
My favorite line is when they say, like, where's the wind coming from? And he's like, the wind follows wherever I go.
Exactly.
Like, and then he's like, sometimes I burn a match down to my fingers just so I can feel
laughed
something.
For at least 5 minutes in the theater at that line alone.
Yeah.
The match line. I thought that was hilarious. He played that so well. And the voice acting was incredible on all fronts. Even from the who played Miles' father?
Ooh, wait.
Was that Brian Tyree Henry or no?
I don't know. Can you look it up right now?
I will look it up right now.
Yeah.
But he gives one of the best voice performances ever in the one scene where...
Is it the one where he's they're at the...
Where he's webbed up to the chair and he's talking to him behind the door and he can't respond.
That scene is so good.
That scene brought me almost to tears. I literally was about to cry. It was Brian Tyree Henry.
Okay.
Literally incredible across the board for everybody. Yeah.
Do you watch? Have you ever seen the YouTube channel? This is not sponsored, by the way. Do you ever watch the YouTube channel Everything Great About?
Yeah.
They did this, and I'm surprised he was able to fit it into one video because usually films that he have you seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World?
Yeah, I've seen the movie or that.
The movie.
Oh yeah.
Great, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
Great. All right. Well, that's another film.
Yeah.
But he did two videos for that because he couldn't handle it into one video.
Yeah.
But with this film, he actually was able to cram it into like a 20-ish minute video. And one of the things he talked about, and he really goes into a lot of the like really like in-depth stuff that he's watched because he's watched it over and over again. But the one scene where you said the dad is on the outside of the door and the son is tied up, but he can't respond even though he wants to. And he noticed that like from a cinematography standpoint, that is the first scene where the dad is actually like reaching out to him and like actually like saying like, just talk to me, like please, like I love you, you know. And if you notice, he actually crosses the halfway point, the midpoint of the frame. Like he actually,
does he really?
He actually is past it. Like,
wow.
Like so, like logically he's past it, but also like literally he's past the midpoint. Wow. That was just one small detail I noticed. But I want to talk about the character arcs in this film because they are probably some of the most thought out character arcs, or maybe not best thought out, but best executed character arcs that I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
And not just like the main character. I'm talking like everybody. And it's so well done. And Peter B. Parker, even honestly Chris Pine's Peter Parker, which I don't know if you notice this too, but when I watched Everything Great About, the world that Miles lives in isn't actually our world.
No.
Like I didn't notice
everything's
that.
just off by like
a little bit.
A little bit.
There's one sign where Spider-Man was swinging by, Chris Pine's Spider-Man, and it said Coca Soda versus Coca-Cola.
Right.
So it was like a different universe, and there was just some things that were off a little bit. And that's why when Peter B. Parker comes in, that's actually, I would assume that was from our actual interpretation or our world. And just each arcer, Peter B. Parker, Chris Pine's Peter Parker, Miles Morales, the dad, they all have arcs that are so well made and so well thought out. When you look at Miles, he starts off the film as this guy who is trying to act all confident and cocky when he goes to this new school. He's like, I got this. But he is definitely, hello. Sorry about that. He's definitely, unique and definitely special and different, know?
Absolutely.
And once he gets those powers, he realizes that, now he actually is like way more than he ever was, but he doesn't really know what to do with it. And he's so closed off from everybody. And, when his dad opens up to him and, Peter B. Parker opens up to him and he does, that scene where he basically, I don't know how to describe this. He like kind of beats him up and then he hangs him from a web from the ceiling and says like, okay, if you have control and you can do this, then shock me right now, which is one of his powers. And he can't do it. And all the other spider people are outside the window listening. Yeah. And it's a really emotional scene because it's like he can't do it. He can't control it. But by the end of the film, he learns to just be him. And just, he just says like, I'm Spider-Man. Like that's who I am. But the ending of the film is also very well done.
Really triumphant, I think. Like really beautiful. The entire climax I thought was insane from a visual standpoint, especially
gorgeous, yeah.
And like the emotional standpoint, all the motivations were culminating into this huge battle between Miles and the Kingpin.
Right.
And I thought that was brilliant. Kingpin was a really great villain too.
He was also so. I love how they made him like
visually. He was like absurd. I didn't think it would work, but it worked really well because they gave him like such a really great character.
Right.
Like his motivations were great. His family like died or something.
Right.
Something like that.
His wife and his son. Yeah.
Yeah. And all of that, and plus like Miles finally come to terms with who he is.
Oh,
and
have you? So you liked Kingpin like as a villain?
Yeah.
Have you seen the show Daredevil?
I haven't watched Daredevil.
So Kingpin is like a huge villain in that. He shows up in he's in all the seasons, but the first season he's the main villain. Third season he's like one of two, and like I'm telling you, Vincent D'Onofrio plays him, and it's so he just gives a great performance in that show, and he's just like. So like how big and how powerful the animated version of him was. It's like that, but in a normal guy. Like he's a beast. He's a beast. Like he just but yeah. So I thought character arcs were great. My two favorite moments from the script was one of them was when Miles takes the Spider-Man suit, spray paints it to make it his own, the black and red versus the red and white and blue, and when he jumps off the building, and the shot is flipped upside down, and he's so in the script. I don't know if you've seen this. It says Miles isn't falling anymore; he's rising. Oh, because the shot is flipped, and it's like a huge, dude,
that's
an
amazing.
It doesn't get better than that.
It's
so seriously,
true.
So that's my first favorite moment of the film, and the second moment that I loved of the script was when they were saying goodbye when going into the like the portal or whatever.
Yeah.
And Gwen and Peter have that, Gwen and Miles have that moment, and I think honestly Gwen has kind of she has the feelings for him, and I think he does too. But I respected the film for not making them kiss.
Yeah.
It's just a subtle thing, and it's not if they kiss, it's whatever. But
you don't need to do it. The kiss you can also say it's too obvious. I like a little bit of subtlety, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think that was a great moment. Another great moment for me, let's see what I got here.
What do you got there?
I don't. We hit all the marks.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I mean, I do want to talk about we were talking about music, the soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
because this is kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy.
A little bit, yeah.
In a sense where they have a lot of music. I mean, it's different because Guardians of the Galaxy has the score, which is what they recorded with an orchestra, and then they have the soundtrack, which is music from the 70s and the 60s. Right. But this film is sort of similar where they have their score, which was really well made.
Yeah.
But then they also have a soundtrack where they gathered probably 10 or so artists, maybe more, and they made them make original music based around the film. Have you?
I love Black Panther, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
Black Panther is actually a great example of that. Have you seen? Have you listened to the actual album?
Not the entire album, but that song "Sunflower" by Post Malone and Sway
Oh, it's
Lee.
amazing.
That's
so
on
good.
my play. That's on a couple playlists of mine. It's a great summation of what the film is.
Right.
Just rising up from what you once were, and just kind of believing yourself. I think that song works really well in the film too. It doesn't feel forced at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like they're saying like buy this album. It's just like it's natural. They use it really well.
Yeah, that's my 3 favorite songs from the album are Sunflower, Elevate, which I don't know if you know that song.
I don't know if I heard that one yet.
It's a good song. I think it's the credits song. So like if you've seen the film, you know that there's a shot of Miles Morales in the Spider-Man suit, and he has his hands like this, and then he's falling back, and then it cuts to him in his bed, and you hear Sunflower play.
Yeah.
But then it cuts to black, and then you hear the song Elevate, and it's just like a hype song, and I think there's like 3 or 4 different rappers in it. But when you listen to the lyrics, it's so good because they actually mixed in a lot of like Spider-Man stuff.
Oh,
like
really?
He's like, I don't have time to be swinging around. Nobody tells me if I'm good or evil. Like they fixed in like I'm Peter Parker and I'm blah 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 blah. Like It's just really well done. And that's my second. And my third is Scared of the Dark, which is when
I've heard that one.
Which is when the Chris Pine Peter Parker dies, and it's the I'm not scared. Yeah. It's so good. And I also the Stan Lee cameo.
Oh my God, that had me in tears actually.
Tears.
Sorry for the voice crack. That had me in tears because I saw that literally maybe a couple. I forget when the gap between Stan Lee's passing and the film came out.
I think he passed away in November.
Was it? Then I saw the film. I mean, but it was still fresh. Like
right.
it was still pretty fresh. So when I saw that, I was like, oh man, like, and his dialogue was like really like profound. I was like, of course, like this is like an amazing like send off. It's an amazing tribute.
Oh, I think he did die in either October or November because this came out in December, and at the end of the movie they had that shot of the glasses and it said thank you, Stan, like this is all you know. So yeah, I think he definitely did pass away before the movie came out, but I also love how they mix, kind of like what you said, they mix like a profound statement with also like a joke.
With a hilarious joke too.
When he's
That's
like,
so funny.
he's like, it always fits. And then he like looks over at the sign and he's like,
Yep.
no refunds. Like,
Exactly.
It was just really.
That's Stan Lee done, just in a nutshell, just done right. So
it was respectable. Like it was respectful of him and what he's done, but it was also like they made him a character.
Exactly.
They made him, and I also like you said, like it was very quippy and like very funny. And Phil Lord was a writer on the movie, and he also wrote things like 21 and 22 Jump Street. He almost did Solo, a Star Wars story, but he was dropped off the project. Yeah. And he also did the Lego Movie and Lego Movie 2. So he's a very funny writer. And one of my favorite parts of the movie, comedy-wise, other than everything that Nick Cage does, is the part where they're at the funeral for Peter Parker, and Miles. They said Mary Jane says like, we need you, and then Peter Parker and Miles is in the big crowd, and he's like, he needs me, and then the guy leans over, he's like, I don't think he means you actually, I think he just means the general people, and it's like it just ruins the moment, but it's so funny. I think comedy, this film is just it's very humorous, but it's more importantly very heartfelt. Yeah. And I think they really nailed home family and what it means to have multiple families and what it means to still be yourself within a crazy, chaotic family, whether it's your spider family, whether it's your actual family. And also, we got to quickly talk about the Prowler. Yeah. Because that's a hero that, like, it's kind of funny. So I would say I'm pretty versed in comic book stuff. And I've never read a comic book for my life, but as far as movies and TV shows go, I watch a lot of breakdowns and a lot
They
of
give enough information.
Right. And so I knew starting off the movie that Aaron Davis was the Prowler.
I was familiar with that.
I knew that.
Too,
I think honestly, I knew that from Spider-Man: Homecoming because
videos always say like, here's like this guy, what this character means, like for the future of whatever.
And Donald Glover played Aaron Davis, and
exactly.
he didn't play the Prowler, but I had never seen what the Prowler actually looked like in the comics, and for some reason when I watched the movie the first time, I was watching it, and by the way, Mahershala Ali gave a great performance.
He was
great, and
it's that great joke too.
So in the movie, he plays Miles Morales' uncle, and he's kind of like a rogue uncle, like him and his brother don't really talk, who's Miles' dad. But what I loved was how, for some reason, they actually got me. Like when he took off his mask and he said, like, boss, like, I'll find him. Yeah. I was like, what? That's him? But like at the same time, I was like, oh wait, no, I knew that. Like, why am I reacting?
Yeah.
But I thought they handled that well. I thought the Prowler theme was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost frightening.
Very intense,
like
very
horror movie-esque.
Yeah. It's just very like, like crazy.
I feel like it's coming to get you.
Yeah.
Just with the music alone.
Did you see it in 3D or no?
Did I? I think I did actually.
How was it? I don't think
it actually was pretty good in 3D. If I can recall correctly, because the animation is so cool. Like it just works. Especially in the third act, because stuff is
everything
popping out
crazy and
yeah.
And even earlier in the film too. Like I love how when Miles first like is feeling his powers, and he's running and his mind is going crazy, and then he's thinking, like his thoughts are popping up on comic book strips. I was like, but he could see them and he knew it. He was like, why are my thoughts so big? Like it was just it was very well done how they kind of use the comic book aspect of the movie to their advantage.
Yeah, that's something a comic book movie has never done before. You know what I mean? I've never seen that before this film. I think for that it should really be applauded, because like it actually like celebrates the medium that it's really a comic book come to life. I mean,
that's a great way of looking at it.
I mean, the animation is just done in that style and it's just done so well. It's written so beautifully.
I think this film, I always like to say that The Incredibles, the first one, I mean the second one I liked it. It wasn't as good, but it was still good. But the first one for me, like that just like screamed a superhero movie, like just like a comic book movie come to life. For me, that movie was that for me. But then this film kind of like completely was like by Incredibles, because it's so different. That's what I love. And really, if you want to look at it in a bigger picture, maybe they didn't think about this, but maybe they did. They probably did. When you have, $90 million on the line, you kind of look at it as, Miles Morales is this outcast. He's of Puerto Rican and black descent. He's a mix. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know what his identity is. And he's different. He's unique. And if you want to look at it, they probably made the animation style different from other films to reflect upon him. Yeah. It's a different take. It's a different look on what an animated,
I didn't even think about that.
Just a comic book movie in general, what it looks like. Like, this is different. This is unique. This is special. And you embrace it. That's why they didn't do it like subtly. Like, you could tell it was different right from the start. And I don't know if you felt the same way too, based off of what I just said, but I feel like if this was to be categorized as something other than a comic book movie, I would argue it's like the independent film style of an animated film.
Yeah, it takes risks, which you never see. And 90 million is not a lot for an animated film, let alone a superhero film. Just like wanted to point that out, because like that's kind of it's not relatively speaking, it's pretty low,
right?
Especially for a Spider-Man film.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a live action Spider-Man film costs a lot more than that. But you don't see the budget either, which is crazy. You just see like it's just done. The animation is so good, and it's like the cinematography. If you can call it that, because it's animated.
It's beauty and imperfection. I think is a great way to put it.
Yeah,
like in the Everything Great About video, he also talks about how imperfect the animation style is, but how beautiful it is at the same time. Like how that's weird. But he even noticed, like in one of the scenes, there's a close up of Gwen, and you can tell her pupil is like kind of square. Like it's not perfectly circled. There's like a ridge at one point, but you would never notice if you. But it's just little things like that make the world seem not normal. Like it's fake, but it's a comic book at the same time. And there's something really special about that I
And
think.
it's not like distracting either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a weird like balance. It's just like unique is the right word to describe
Right.
this film, and it works. Like everything about it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's all I had to talk about because I know I could keep going about it, but I think we pretty much nailed everything we wanted to
For
talk
sure.
about.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so this is a film, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that we again really recommend you watch if you haven't already watched it. But I believe it's been on DVD for a little while now. It's also probably on Amazon Prime or whatever, so you can go and check it out. But yeah, so that's all the time we have for today. But Tom, thanks for being here.
I'm so glad I could finally make it. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, and these are two films that I absolutely love, and I'm glad I got to talk about them with you.
Yeah, awesome, man. So this is Take Two. It's Michael D. Smith with Tom Hughes. Thanks for listening.